Hello, and thank you for this opportunity to share our thoughts about the proposed Fields project with you. My name is Jen Mueller, and I live in the Summit Vista subdivision, which is directly adjacent to this 19-acre parcel under consideration. I am speaking on behalf of our group of concerned residents who live along Valley Road and would be directly impacted on a daily basis by this development and therefore the decision each of you makes. This is not just somewhere in the Mid-Valley to us. This is home for us and our children. As concerned Eagle County voters and taxpayers, we object to the current land use application known as the Fields Subdivision Project on the grounds that it does not meet the public benefit standard. In fact, we propose this high-density development will create additional burdens and compromise public safety. We also find the application misleading and deficient. As Valley Road residents who are very familiar with the traffic and safety issues along Valley Road, we can assure you that the rezoning they are seeking and the additional 1,000 plus vehicles per day that the developer says it will generate will result in compromised safety and does not comply with the county's existing Mid-Valley Area Community Plan. As we all know, the Mid-Valley Area Community Plan is a blueprint for future development that guides land use decisions. A few of its objectives are to encourage multimodal connectivity and walkability within developed areas along Highway 82, preserve agricultural land uses and rural character, and promote public safety, health, and welfare consistent with Eagle County land use regulations. The Mid-Valley Plan also requires that the public be involved in this process. The plan directs officials to use a democratic process when considering a development. It states that public officials should, quote, ensure appropriate public involvement and participation in local planning and decision-making. Another policy it stipulates is to strive to involve affected landowners, town officials, management agencies, and user groups in the planning and decision-making process. The agenda of tonight's hearing combines the preliminary sketch plan, permit application, zone change, and variation requests. Procedurally, combining these submissions does not permit adequate public comment on each step. Also, the sketch plan has materially changed since it was last presented. At that time, it was seeking approval for 97 units, much less than the 135 they are now proposing. The current request represents a 39% increase, which is a drastic change. This revised plan should be presented and considered in its own separate meeting before moving on to schedule the permit application hearing or a preliminary hearing. We feel that the planners are pushing this through without adequate time or opportunity for public input. For these reasons, we feel the Planning Commission does not meet the standard of the Mid-Valley Plan regarding public involvement and comment. The Fields sketch plan says the development will add over 1,000 vehicle trips per day along Valley Road. This is by far the most concerning issue for all of us. This affects our safety and the safety of our children. Valley Road is a narrow 25-mile-per-hour rural road with no shoulders, a blind curve, a blind hill, no sidewalks, and no lighting. There are kids on bikes and people walking their dogs along Valley Road throughout the day. Adding this many cars without first addressing and fixing the dangerous road conditions is irresponsible development and very dangerous for all of us who live along this narrow two-lane country road. The developer is also asking for a variance of road standards in an area that is already unsafe. Road standards are put in place for a reason, and public safety should trump land development. Safety is a huge issue and not debatable. There are 4 school bus stops along Valley Road. Adding over 1,000 vehicles per day is irresponsible. In 2015, the Roaring Fork Valley Regional Planning Commission recognized the traffic concerns and voted 4-1 to reject an application for 97 units on this same 19 acres. At that time, the Planning Commission said that the higher density is not appropriate, quote, mostly due to concerns for traffic impacts to Valley Road, unquote. This is an article in the Aspen Times from December 2015 covering the story. Here are some other quotes from the same article. Planning Commission members expressed concerns about density, traffic, and the layout of the subdivision. Planning Commissioner Charles Spickert said traffic was a potential fatal flaw for the fields. He suggested the developers should try to solve traffic issues before seeking approval. Planning Commission and members also cited the lack of improvements to Valley Road as a problem. Planning Commissioner Temple Glacier said she couldn't approve additional development in the Mid-Valley until the infrastructure is approved to handle it. Since 2015, no improvements have been made to Valley Road to address the traffic in dangerous intersections. Road improvements must be done before any high-density rezoning is approved. You cannot put development or affordable housing ahead of public safety. One of the traffic concerns that existed then and still has not been addressed are the two Highway 82 intersections that would provide access to the parcel for residents. This map shows the two nearby intersections marked with red stars. Of particular concern is the intersection on the west side at Highway 82 and JW Drive. It's the one on the upper left side of the map. There is no stoplight at this intersection. This intersection regularly has serious accidents that close the highway, diverting traffic onto Valley Road. It already desperately needs a traffic light. The problem will only become more dire at that intersection if the Fields development moves forward as proposed with 135 units. Brooke Stott, Deputy Fire Marshal for the Roaring Fork Fire Rescue Authority, warns about the dangerous conditions that currently exist at these intersections in the letter he submitted to your commission on July 5th, 2021. One of the points he makes is about missing a key opportunity to play an important role in traffic access planning for a hazardous intersection closest to the Fields subdivision. He continues, "We anticipate this will increase our response to serious motor vehicle accidents." He goes on to say, "The fire district is on record as stating that due to the noted heavy traffic on Highway 82, we have difficulty being able to negotiate safe response through Highway 82 and JW Drive Valley Road intersections." And he specifically expresses his concern about the west intersection when he says, "The fire district recognizes this is a dangerous intersection and would support a traffic light that helps us through this critical intersection as part of an emergency response. An additional traffic light was not in the traffic plan." And one more point about the intersection on the east side at Jebel Road and Highway 82. The Fields traffic study in the sketch plan points out that the vehicles per hour rate at that intersection already exceeds the permitted volume of 448. It is currently running at 556 vehicles per hour. Allowing another 1,021 vehicles per day is irresponsible development. Here's an article from Monday's Aspen Times. In it, Fire Chief Scott Thompson talks about the effects that the population surge in the Roaring Fork Valley is having on our emergency services. Thompson says the growth in demand for services is all about the growth and development of residential and commercial property. These quotes are direct quotes from Thompson. "The increased population in the valley, and the data proves it, is straining our resources. We're all busier than we've ever been. We're strapped for resources. Our infrastructure isn't going to support this. We can't keep up anymore. That's the bottom line. This is public safety. We cannot keep approving high-density development that will bring more people to the Mid-Valley without first addressing our lack of infrastructure to support it." We feel that the town of Basalt, as our proximate valley neighbor, has valuable knowledge and input that should be given considerable weight. After all, they are the ones who are living daily with our local issues and acutely aware of the impact the recent spate of Eagle County-approved developments is having on this valley where we live. Many of us feel that the interests of Roaring Fork Valley residents are not being properly looked after by our current planning department that resides an hour away and holds private meetings and negotiations with developers with no opportunity for public input. In July 2021, the Basalt Planning and Zoning Commission submitted a letter with their recommendations on the Fields project. The town believes that the proposed density of 135 dwelling units is an urban, suburban level of development that belongs within the town's UGB and not in the rural fringe as proposed. As such, the Basalt P&Z does not feel that this is an appropriate location for 135 additional dwelling units. With regards to traffic generation, the town believes that a long-term fix to the Valley Road Highway 82 intersection needs to be settled on and funding determined before allowing approving development access from the intersection. The site is also not close to a transit stop. The town is also concerned about the ability of the Mid-Valley to absorb the services needed to accommodate a development of this nature, in addition to all the development proposed elsewhere in the eligible area. Specifically, the town is concerned about the proposed development's impact on the school district and the critical child daycare situation in the Mid-Valley. The town does not believe that a greater public good is achieved by the proposed application. The Basalt P&Z cannot support the proposed application and recommends that Eagle County deny the application because it is not consistent with the town's master plan or the adopted Highway 82 access control plan. The town of Basalt officials recognize that all of these are issues with the current application and reasons why this request should be denied because they live in the Roaring Fork Valley and are acutely aware of the problems that rampant, irresponsible development is causing. Moving on, we have found a number of misleading, deficient, and incorrect statements and statistics cited in the developer's preliminary sketch plan. We would like the Fields developers to clear up these false statements before any decisions are made. Regarding compatibility with surrounding uses, the plan states that this request for zone district map amendment is compatible with the type, intensity, character, and scale of existing and permissible surrounding land uses. This is false. According to the Mid-Valley Plan, Policy 1.1.2H states, where new residential uses are proposed on the margins of agricultural properties, encourage transitional density design concepts. This parcel is definitely on the margins of agricultural properties. This graphic is helpful because it shows you the current zoning which was established to conform with the step-down or transitional design density that is referred to in the Mid-Valley Plan guidelines. It also shows you the neighboring densities of the project. Starting from the intersection to the east, you have the highest density of the Soper's View apartments with 12.8 dwelling units per acre. You then can see the Summit Vista subdivision. It has 51 homes on 20 acres, which equates to 2.4 dwelling units per acre. And on the other side of Summit Vista is the Fields parcel. You can see that the Fields property is currently zoned rural residential, which allows development of one home per 2 acres. In this case, that would allow 9 homes on this parcel. The developer wants to build 135. The purpose of this rural residential zone district is to serve as a transition area between the denser development to the east, which is Summit Vista with RSM, and the lower density parcels to the west. Planning Commission members Temple Glacier and Charles Sprickett argued in the past that the Fields site should have lower density because it is in a transition zone. It still is. Summit Vista is zoned residential, suburban, medium density, and only has 2.4 dwelling units per acre. Since Summit Vista is 2.4, it would actually make sense for the Fields parcel to be approved for 2.4 or lower to conform to the Mid-Valley Plan's guidance of transitional density. At the very least, the Fields land should not be zoned with any higher density than RSM. But Fields is asking for a density of 7 dwelling units per acre and a zoning change from rural residential to residential multifamily. Residential multifamily is the highest density residential classification that exists for Eagle County. RMF is intended for the high density residential and commercial centers of Willits. It is not appropriate for rural Jebel along Valley Road. The Fields development, as proposed, with 7 dwelling units per acre, would be considered leapfrog development and would defy the guidance of the Mid-Valley Plan. Moving on, this statement involves the developer's claims of walkability. On page 31, the developer states, its location will inherently reduce the need for personal vehicle use. This is false. The project is not a walkable subdivision and will only add more cars to our roads. The U.S. Department of Transportation Federal Highway Administration guidelines recommend a transit stop within a 5 to 10 minute walk from homes to obtain a high percentage of people willing to use public transit. The Pedestrian Safety Guide for Transit Agencies says that most people are willing to walk 5 to 10 minutes or approximately 1/4 to 1/2 mile to a transit stop. The closest RAPTA stop is 0.9 miles from the entrance to the Fields development, a 19-minute walk along Valley Road. According to the graph on the previous slide, less than 8% of people would be willing to walk this distance. Even if people did want to walk 20 minutes to the RAPTA stop, it would be difficult and dangerous. There is no safe pedestrian path along Valley Road from the project. The path one would have to take is along the edge of Valley Road. This is a view looking east along Valley Road from the project entrance. There are no pedestrian paths until you get to Summit Drive and Valley Road, which you can see here is a 9-minute walk. Crown Mountain Park trails do not start until there. And once there, it's another 10 minutes to the RAPTA stop located at the Red Star. The plan also states that a RAPTA stop is accessed by local multi-use trails in Crown Mountain Park. This is false, as we just witnessed. There are no linking trails at this time, and none are proposed by the developer. There is only the hope that the county will provide them. So in summary, this is not a walkable development. It will only add more traffic to our roads. As bad as the traffic is now, it is only going to get worse. Hundreds of residences and dozens of commercial properties have recently been approved. Here, an article in the Aspen Times from last year says, quote, "The Mid-Valley is experiencing a construction boom this year that will result in a population surge down the road." And there are 11 major projects for residential, commercial, or mixed uses that are under construction, soon to get underway, or in the planning process. Here's what has been approved. In total, the residential units add up to 869, and this is not a comprehensive list. There are multifamily units being built in Carbondale that are not included in this chart. We need to see what impact these development projects will have on traffic congestion in the Mid-Valley before adding another 135-unit subdivision and 1,021 vehicle trips a day at an already dangerous intersection. It is incumbent on the Eagle County Commissioners and the developers to verify that existing infrastructure is in place to handle the demands of another 135 units that the Fields is seeking approval for. If not, then the developers must be responsible to pay for the upgrades. There are still questions that need to be answered. Too much is unknown in this proposal, and too much is at stake. Who is going to be responsible for the long-term fix at the Highway 82 JW Drive intersection? This is a critical issue. As Valley Road residents who are directly affected by the decision of the Commission, we insist that the problems with the intersections of Valley Road and Highway 82 are resolved with long-term fixes before any new housing is approved on Valley Road. How is trail access to the RAPTA stop going to be provided? There are no architectural guidelines, renderings, or elevations accompanying the sketch plan. They haven't addressed what the structures are going to look like or even given us a concept. How can you approve something when you don't know what you're approving? There is no substance to this application. What are you approving besides maximum density lot delineation and number of units? The plan only shows the parcel broken up into lots. It looks like only lots are being sold. The sketch plan shows 11 lots set up with square footage and what you can build. Will the developer get approval for the rezoning, then sell off the lots to individual builders? Individual construction companies could buy the lots and max out the number of units on each lot with RMF zoning. The developer makes a promise that they will have a minimum of 20% affordable housing. How are they going to ensure that this promise is kept if they then turn around and sell the lots to individual builders, as has recently occurred in other recently approved Mid-Valley projects? Since it looks like the lots are going to be individually sold, who is going to buy and build the affordable housing portions? All the other lots are going to get sold first because there's profit in them. Shouldn't this developer be responsible for the construction of the affordable housing part of this? If no one steps up, then there should be a provision that he has to build them so it's guaranteed. We have no control otherwise. So much is uncertain. So what are you actually voting on? What is he really giving us in return for this controversial zoning change? Individual lots that he's going to sell? And traffic? If the commission is still thinking that this high-density development is a good idea, there need to be covenants and guidelines spelled out in the application before the sketch plan is approved. A control document should be drawn up that defines such things as building height, setbacks, and architectural covenants that adhere to the lots as a condition of rezoning. There should be guidelines for each individual site with setbacks and how much parking will be on that site. You lose the ability to enforce the principles of smart growth and maintain control of development if you skip this very important step and think it's going to happen during permitting. This approval process is moving way too fast. There has been a lot of misinformation and now material changes in this new submission. In order to allow adequate time for public comment and input, we ask that you only consider the sketch plan with this public hearing. A preliminary hearing should be scheduled for another time. The public needs answers and more time for input. And we urge you to abide by the guidelines set forth in the Mid-Valley Plan. If you rightly adhere to these guidelines, the zoning on the Fields land should not be a greater density than the Summit Vista subdivision directly adjacent to it. Therefore, you must reject their request for residential multifamily zoning. In closing, I would like to remind everyone how long this battle has been going on and how strongly citizens of the Mid-Valley have fought to maintain their quality of life and the character of this valley. In June 2018, Summit Vista resident Greg Hammond presented a petition signed by 108 residents from neighborhoods surrounding the fields. The petition demanded lower density than the proposed 97 units at that time. The voters and taxpayers of this valley are still opposed to this development. In the last week alone, we have collected over 330 signatures on a new petition that asks the commissioners to deny this application. Here is just a small sampling of the many articles and commentaries in the local papers expressing opposition to the Fields project. This one is from June 2018. Roughly 100 Mid-Valley residents attended a meeting June 14th to protest the Planning Commission's direction on the Fields as part of an update to the Mid-Valley Area Community Plan. And June 18th from the Aspen Times. It says, and projects such as the Fields will immeasurably worsen our traffic congestion, which in turn will mean more accidents, a lower index of safety for drivers, and more air pollution. And another Aspen Times article from May 2018. People feel they aren't being listened to. And in July 2021, the Basalt Planning and Zoning Commission voted 5-1 at their meeting to urge Eagle County to deny the development application for 97 units. At the meeting, they raised concerns about traffic congestion, adequacy of roads to handle traffic, a location too far away from mass transit stops, impacts on schools, and lack of safe pedestrian crossings. The town also recognized that the Fields parcel is located in the rural fringe. What we want to know is why Eagle County doesn't know this. I am here today representing the people of the Roaring Fork Valley. We are fed up with rampant development and the county's repeated attempts to prioritize the objectives of developers over those of their constituents. The bottom line is that the Eagle County Commissioners ultimately bear responsibility to serve the best interests of their constituents with regard to safety, quality of life, and responsible development. Previous plans for the Fields parcel in recent years with less units have been responsibly denied by the county and its commissioners, and this one should be as well.